Hey guys, happy Friday night. It is July 1st. We are halfway through the year, halfway through the pilot jams for 2022 already. Can you believe that? Freddie didn't mess around tonight. He got in there real fast. I think the video posted right as he clicked go. Pretty quick. Fast Freddie. I say it a lot, man. Freddie puts the F in Fast Freddie. You know what I mean? Patrick, how you doing, my friend? Glad you could make it. Robert, 20,900 subscribers. Yeah, we're getting close, man. We turned the corner on 20,900 this week, just a few, like today, I think. So we're getting there. You know, we're pushing on to 21K, and thanks for Robert for reminding everyone to hit the like button on the way in. I appreciate it when you remind people to do that. So thanks very much. Subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. Man, Robert needs a YouTube channel. Miller RC says, hopefully an update on the GB1. You've been following, huh? Maybe. Clyde Kaler says, we're here tonight. Hello to all. Is that we as in the royal we or the French we, or you got a mouse in your pocket? You got your friend with you? I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out. Four Eyes, what's going on, man? NH Jim, how you doing? The David Knutz is here. Hi, David. Glad you can make it. Philip Jang from Australia is here. Oliver, what's up, man? Oliver's posting some. We got to get Robert's YouTube. Robert, we need to get Oliver's YouTube channel listed, and you guys need to watch this young man fly. Man, he tears hell out of 3D planes. It's very fun to watch, and he's a young guy. He's got some real legit stick skills. Fun to watch, man. Let's get his YouTube channel up there, Robert, if you can. I'll trust you to work that out on Discord while we proceed with the events for tonight. Hobie says, hi, all, I'm here just listening tonight. Glad you can make it, Hobie. Canada Day today, maple syrup for everyone. Oh, you're preempting 4th of July, huh? I see how you are. Maybe you should start drinking that maple syrup, Robert. You bet. I love EF stuff. Yeah, me too. I love EF stuff, man. We're going to talk about that tonight. And well, the new scheme on it is sexy. I agree. The new scheme on the Game Bird, man, the red and silver and white and black, looks good. Looks good. Jerry Willifong says, hello, pilots. Welcome, Jerry. Well, I thought we'd, just like normal, start out by taking a week in review. And I don't know if you guys weren't paying attention, man, the channel, I don't like to say like I knocked the cover off the ball, but man, I did a lot of videos this week. Let's leave it at that. A lot. There were 7, including this one, 7 videos this week. 7. That's one video on average a day for a week. That's a lot of material. And it was fun, man. I had fun doing every single bit of it. You know, actually there were 8. Honestly, there were 8 because I did a live session. Oh, Miller RC says he likes that 60-inch laser. I like that NG. There's an NG out there that looks pretty good too. But anyway, we started out the week with a master class. So it was rainy Saturday, not good weather on Saturday. So I did an OpenTX to EdgeTX master class. And the idea behind that video was to take USB cables and drivers and software and computers and all that stuff out of the equation and just simply focus on converting Edge completely from scratch, utilizing nothing more than your computer and an SD card. The reason I did that is because even though, you know, there's a lot of help out there, and these days USB is pretty good, there were still a lot of questions out there on, you know, what happens when I connect my radio, I get a USB error, I can't read the SD card. You know, I saw all that stuff. And when that happens, it makes maybe flashing using some of the tools maybe perhaps a little more challenging. So my idea behind that video was simply to say, let's get rid of everything. Let's take it all out of the equation and do nothing but the SD card and the computer. And I did put a rule in place that said, if you can't read your SD card from your computer, get a teenager to help you. And I wasn't trying to be a smart ass when I said that. Honestly, I was just trying to tell you that, you know, there's got to be a point where you got to get to a level set, right? You got to be at a point where you can start doing this kind of stuff. And minimally, you got to be able to read and write your SD card. So that's why I said get some help if you can't figure it out on your own to get to that point. But anyway, the funny part about that, well, it wasn't really funny. It was kind of aggravating, to be honest. But during the video, I made a mistake in the steps, and it was kind of drastic because what you really need to do at a certain point is flash the bootloader before you start monkeying around too much, because without flashing the bootloader, if you have the OpenTX bootloader, you can't load Edge. OpenTX bootloader doesn't like to flash Edge, but the EdgeTX bootloader doesn't care. And I skipped that stuff, and boy, did it make a mess. It made a mess of the whole thing. I had to unwind and back up, and it was live, so there's no edit capability. It was really a mess. So after the video was over, I watched it, and I'm like, nope, not good enough. And I killed that video. I unlisted it, marked it private, and I reshot the entire video with the camera and a recording and made it production. Meaning that if there were any errors, and I'm not copying to any, I'm just saying if there were, they got edited out and you didn't see them. So what you got to see was the process front to back the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, that was actually a second, that's like a 1.5 kind of video. So anyway, the masterclass, and hopefully if you watch that video, that will give you a very clear understanding of where you need to go to get all the different elements for Edge, because you will do a complete Edge install utilizing the steps in that video from top to bottom. You don't need to rely on anything except the links in that video and your own computer, and you can get a full Edge install working. So that was that, and that'll be up there for posterity. And all I can say is that I hope it helps people, when they're looking to make the conversion. One guy left a comment, he goes, man, that seems like a lot of steps. Why does it have to be that complicated? And, the answer is it doesn't really have to be that complicated, because they have Buddy and they've got the flasher. And if you have, USB read write on your computer with your radio as the thumb drive, then it works. And you can literally flash Edge with just a few clicks. But, there are people who have issues with DFU mode and having their computer see the radio as a USB device. So for that reason, I just did it old school, man, way old school, and went straight to the USB card and tried to eliminate any potential points of failure. So that was the purpose behind that video. Hope you guys that are switching or thinking about switching, hopefully that one helps you out. Next up was the field day. So we had a day at the field with the Precision Aerobatics XR61. I did the maiden on that, and the Tron 5.5 flight, and the Edge 540, a couple flights with that. And I'll tell you, man, that I'm really at a point right now where I really have a thing with PA and Extreme Flight. We'll talk about them some more tonight, but I just have to tell you that they're both fantastic. I'm not saying they're perfect. If anybody out there is perfect, you should leave now and go run the planet, because, if you're perfect, you know exactly what to do. But they're not perfect. Nothing is. But boy, are they really making efforts to be solid. That's all I can say. So we'll talk a little bit about them in detail later. And then you'll notice that in the pattern, I've started including the helicopter flying. And that's my intention, is to do a little bit of both. I'm trying to put a foot in both camps, because I think there's a need for it. And I enjoy the helicopters. I certainly put some money into them. And I love flying them. They're a blast. You guys know I flew in helicopters in the Navy. I was a rescue swimmer and an air crewman in the Navy. So I flew in the back. It was an air crew in the back. But I spent a lot of hours in the back of military helicopters, so I always had a soft spot for them ever since I got stationed in my first helicopter squadron. But I do enjoy the helicopters, having fun with those, and I'm really having fun with the bigger stuff. That big 78-inch Edge 540, absolute hoot to fly that thing, and it's beautiful in the sky, and like, it's competent. That's all I can say. So good day at the field. It was just me, no Dave, no Freddie. They both had obligations they couldn't get out of, so no, just me at the field that day. And then we followed that up with an Edge video. I had another question on the channel, and I thought it was an interesting question. And the bottom line was the guy wanted to be able to repeatedly press the 6-position switch. Let me switch over to the big camera real quick. Nope, that's not the right one. This one. He wanted to continually press this button and have it reset his timer. And while that's a novel idea, interesting idea, this is not a true momentary switch. So once you activate switch number 1, it's on, just like a light switch in your house. So the only way to get it to change states is to change the switch, and you have to hit a different button. Now if I press 1 again, it activates and the radio sees it. But just sitting here and pressing 1 over and over and over, it doesn't see that. Just like if you hit the light switch on your, on one of those rocker panel light switches, you keep hitting the bottom, your house is like, what are you doing, dude? They're going to think you need medication or something. So that's just the hard reality of it. But based on the question, I was able to show a couple of different techniques using the 6-position switch, is what we call latching momentary, which basically makes it behave as if it's one of those momentary switches that latches. So when you press it, it stays there until you press it again. And that's kind of what a latch is. It stays down. And anyway, that video was kind of cool. I had a good time doing that. And, it was a little bit of a logic exercise. Probably not the way I would do things on my planes for, say, a throttle unlock and a timer reset, but hey, different strokes for different folks, right? And if you watch the logic, hopefully I gave you some ideas, and maybe if you hadn't seen how to use an edge switch before, and that's not EdgeTX, that's edges and logical switch, hopefully that gave you some ideas on how you can program things on your own radio. And that's kind of why I do those types of videos, just to walk you through some of the logic and how you can apply that stuff. Anyway, next up was RCVR 1. I have a huge list of people that have asked me for that RCVR 1 over time, and I finally let it go. The main reason I held on to it for so long is because I simply just didn't want to see it out there getting monetized. So, I had to figure out a way to, put some rules down and say, here's what I'm asking people to do and not do with my model. But anyway, it's out there now. And, whether or not people respect that, who knows? That's a different story. But RCVR 1 is out there, and hopefully you guys download it and print it and use it to help with your own setups on the desktop, because it can be very helpful to try out your logic on your radio setups. Really cool tool for that. Crossfire is now the RX to beat. Man, we're going to talk about that in some detail tonight. I've got some stuff over here on the side. We're going to get into that. So Crossfire is now the RX to beat. And the reason I say that is because now that we've got, first off, we got the Crossfire protocol. We have S-Bus. They've always had S-Bus. You can do S-Bus out on Crossfire. Have been able to as long as I've used them. And now we've got reliable PWM, 10-channel PWM. That's it. Those are like the three main things that we use. Again, we'll talk about that in some detail in a little bit. Then I did the Extreme Flight GB1 Game Bird first look, the 60-inch Game Bird first look, and then, of course, the PilotJam. So it was a ridiculously busy week. Oh, and by the way, in and amongst all of that, I finished the Game Bird. So somebody, it was Miller RC said, I hope we get a status update on the Game Bird. There it is. The only thing left to do is I need to put my UMA grip on my battery tray. That's it. It is balanced. Batteries in. All the control surfaces are working. The props on. Everything is finished, and it is ready to roll. So the Game Bird GB1, if I can get some cooperation out of the weather this weekend, I'll try and get that made. And although I'm going to warn you, I know I sound like a broken record on this. I promise it's not my fault. This is the way it is in Florida in the rainy season. Weather's not looking great tomorrow. So I'll try and get out if I can. I'll try and get out, but who knows? And on that note, I'll also point out, since we're talking about the weekend, it is 4th of July weekend in America. In the United States, that's how we celebrate our Independence Day from the Empire. And I know we have some Brits, and hopefully no hard feelings, right? We can still drink beers together these days. But it's Independence Day. And so Monday is a family day, and that means a short week. And that also means that we'll be having less content this week for sure. So we're having a little bit of holiday celebration this week, and weather's not great. So what I'm trying to do is foreshadow a little bit, guys, because I know I kind of hammered this week on videos. Next week's not looking all that great for video material. I'm just throwing it out there ahead of time. Just kind of looking ahead a little, it's the way it is. So anyway, let's see. I think that's it for the Game Bird, and I'm going to go back to the desktop, and I'm going to go through the comments and questions, and then we have a little bit of content for tonight. So let me go back here. Let's see. Canada Day maple syrup for everybody. Well, enjoy your maple syrup, Robert. And I know on 4th of July, most of us down here in the lower 48 will be enjoying a nice cold one, and hopefully some burgers on the grill, and maybe even some swimming. All right, let's see. Hello, pilots. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. So, Oliver, yeah, you guys, on Oliver's, I saw Robert post it. Guys, go visit Oliver and subscribe to his channel. If you like airplanes and if you like watching 3D pilots fly, I'm telling you, man, he's got some skills. Go check him out. And let's help the young man get his channel moving. So let's see. Extreme Flight rocks. I agree. I think there's a big fan club on the RCVR Discord for Extreme Flight. I really do. It seems like there's plenty of folks on the Discord these days who are very well familiar with Extreme Flight. So Terminal Insanity says, has anyone flown control line planes? I did about, I don't know, about 42 years ago, somewhere in there, a long time ago. Oliver says, glad me and Rob converted you to the dark side. I love it. Hey, man, just for the record, Oliver, I got my first Extreme Flight plane sometime back with a Vanquish Mark II. So this is not my first run with Extreme Flight, although I hadn't bought a lot after that, but I'm having fun with it. Miller RC says, I still think the 60 and laser, yeah, this, you know what, when it comes to Extreme Flight planes, you just can't go wrong. I'm sure that 60-inch laser is beautiful. So is the NG, so is the Edge and the Slick and the 85-inch Game Bird and the green and black Game Bird. They all look good, man. That's one thing I really like about Extreme Flight. Boy, they've got something for every taste, don't they? And every size. I mean, they have models like the Edge 540. They've got that thing in like a 48, a 60, a 78, an 85, a 92, a 104, 125. It's ridiculous. They got tons of different options for you at Extreme Flight. Oliver says, nothing flies like the GB1 though. Well, I hope so. We'll find out. We'll find out on Saturday. Let's see. Anytime, Oliver, you're one hell of a pilot. I agree. He's a good young man, and he spends a lot of time on Discord helping people out, answering questions, engaging. It's always been a pleasure having Oliver around. So appreciate having you, Oliver. Thanks for joining us. It's okay, John. Even Elvis messed up once. I know. I hold myself to a high standard. I felt really bad about that video, to be honest, because it was kind of complicated. You know, if you're going to put out a video where you're the authority, you got to be right on that stuff. And that was a pretty good mistake. So anyway, if you'll buy me one, I'm down, Fred. Oh yeah, that's right. We gotta get Oliver a helicopter somehow. We'll have go start a GoFundMe, he says. The Edges rock. I agree, man. I've been enjoying the Edge 540. It's been a very pleasant airplane to fly. Aren't the Edges the best in post stall than any other EF design? You know, Miller RC, that's a good question. We had some context in Discord where they kind of ran down what the different airframe styles were and what they were good at doing. And the Edge, they did say that the Edge was kind of like a 3D trainer. So it's got that straight leading edge and it's got a little bit of a longer fuse. So a little bit like a 3D trainer, but certainly an enjoyable airplane to fly. And I've been, you know, trying to expand my horizons with that plane the best I can. So Oliver says the MXS and Edge do it the best. Good to know. Freddie says the T6 push button trick does great for a timer reset. I agree. The T5, T6, you can turn those into momentary switches real easy. Just go into flight modes and turn those off and they become really usable momentary switches. They're perfect for that kind of thing. You could have one reset timer 1, one reset timer 2, the other one reset timer 3. It works. And one maybe for instant trim. It's a really neat option for these two switches. You actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 free momentary switches if you just turn those off in flight modes. So Terminal Insanity says, I use 2 timers, 1 resets, begins counting each time I arm, the second never resets. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Yeah, I've got a flight timer and a persistent. So I get some kind of idea of how much time I have per airframe. Oliver says, I might get an 85-inch Game Bird. Well, if you do, man, I'd love to see you fly that one. It's there's something else. I really like the looks of that airplane. In case you guys aren't familiar, if you didn't, you know, maybe catch it, that's what we're talking about. This is the 60-inch Game Bird. It's a new scheme, and that's the red, silver, white, and black. And they have the green and black out there for a while. But this one is a V2, so it has some nice little updates. They made some revisions to the battery tray so you can slide the battery forward. They added on the wingtips the quick release side force generators, and of course the guillotine quick release for the wings. Really awesome airplane in a fantastic color scheme. So that's the one we're talking about. Going to be spending the 4th working. Oh, too bad, man. Poor Oliver's got to be working on the 4th. Well, hey, brother, we've all been there. I'm sure of it. All right. Gosh, I'm going to have to get one now. Go get them, man. I can tell you on the Game Birds, Northwest RC doesn't have much. And I think Extreme has some limited stock on those things. So just be aware. Freddie, you know, we had this little test that we used to do when we were looking for receivers. I think it was Fred who kind of turned us on to this. What you do is you go add 50 to your cart and you see what they let you take. If they let you take 50, that means that's how many they have. So you add it, you change it to 75 and they'll say, oops, sorry, we only have 60 in stock. And that tells you, that's how you figure it out. So I did that with the Game Birds the other night. And I can tell you that Extreme Flight only had 5 left. Oh, and on that note, the Crossfire PWM-C adapter that I did the video on, they're sold out at Race Day Quads. Although they do have these elsewhere, guys. Go look at PyroDrone if you want them. PyroDrone still has these in stock if you're in the market for these. So you just got to look around a little bit. And I think Defiance RC has them as well. But Race Day Quads, yeah, they're out. So that happens. That happens. Let's see. Good of Tron 5.5 says Luke's videos. Yeah, I like that Tron 5.5, man. That Tron's a good helicopter. I'm kind of connecting with that thing. I feel good flying and it's easy to see. But I like my Kraken too, and I like the 7, and I like the small stuff. I like it all. They're all good helicopters. Clyde says, had a quiet few control models, 1957, still have some motors. Quite a few control line models, I guess, right? That's cool. That's what I learned on. That's what got me hooked in radio control in the first place. I should say model aircraft aviation, because it wasn't really radio control, right? Steven says, I made it. Already hit the like button. Well, thanks, Steven. I appreciate that. Thank you. Terminal Insanity says there are expansion pin headers inside the TX16S. You can add 2 momentary. That's correct. That is correct. They're added. That was definitely a new addition. So Freddie says, do the trims not push straight down anymore? T6 up and down. You know, they do not. If they do, you know, I did the video on that and it did work, but these feel more rigid. And honestly, that's not, I mean, it's okay. So the answer is, I don't think they do. On the Mark II, it doesn't feel like it, Fred. On the Mark I, you can push those things straight down and you get a 3rd momentary switch out of it. So Miller RC, that's one thing I wish with my laser did have the quick wing release. I love that quick wing release. And I mentioned that in the build review, that quick release is such a nice feature when you're at the field. And same with the SFG quick releases. That's a really nice feature too. You don't really think about these things. See, I never really spent any time taking my wings off the planes until I started flying the bigger stuff. Like prior, the biggest thing I would take was the 63-inch smooth, and I could fit that in the bed of my truck, and I'd put maybe a small plane in the back, in the cab, but that was it. That's all you could fit in the back. And so with the smooth, I really don't want to mess around with that, because they use screws. They've got these hex head screws you got to screw in with washers. I didn't want to take that thing apart. But with the quick release, that changes the story, because it's real easy to take it apart. You just quick lift the guillotine up, separate the servo lead, pop it in the bag. And with the quick release side force generators, you loosen 2 screws, slide it off, stick that in the bag. You're literally broken down a wing in a matter of a minute. So it's a really nice system if you're not familiar with breaking down wings, which that's new to me. That's new to me. You can ask the guys I fly with, they'll tell you it's new to me. Steven says, Radio Master now has new push buttons for the Mark II radios. They just plug in, they come 2 versions, momentary and push on, push off. That's right. They're on the website. And that's a fairly new development. They also now have, if you didn't know, they also have a left-hand momentary switch. So if you want to follow my lead and put your momentary on the left-hand side, you can do that as well. They have a left-hand momentary switch, which is kind of cool. Kind of cool. All right, Robert says, hit the like button on the way in. 33 watching, 22 likes. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like, I appreciate it. All right, we have some stuff to cover. I want to go over, first what I want to do is this one. We're going to bring this up, and we're going to talk about Crossfire a little bit. Now, here's what I did. You know, I got this Crossfire to PWM receiver, and in the process of doing that, during the video, somebody left a comment, and they said, I like ELRS better. And certainly, I respect what ELRS does, and I think ELRS is good stuff. So I'm not, you know, I don't disparage it. But the reason I like Crossfire better, there's a couple things I like about it better. I went out and I did some reading, and it's odd that the manufacturers don't publish this stuff. You can't go to I couldn't find it on the Crossfire website. So, you know, I had to go out and do a little digging, and the link at the bottom is where I found this. And it looks to be a guy who did some hacking on a Crossfire Nano. and he used a sniffer, he did some decryption stuff, and he posted some interesting data. I'm not going to go all the way through the whole thing, but I want to point out two things. The first thing is that over the air, it appears the Crossfire only uses 10 bits of resolution. And we've talked about this a lot. So the Radio Master gimbals are 11-bit and the digital gimbals are 12-bit from FlySky. So we've had this conversation before. So the weird thing is that if Crossfire is only 10 bits, then you're not taking full advantage of your gimbal resolution. And the serial protocol that this gentleman uncovered said uses 11 bits. And I think he's referring to SBus, but I'm not 100% sure. So another interesting fact, and I actually called this out in my video, and it wasn't because I saw this material. It's because this is what they do or talk about in Express ELRS when they talk about the concepts of RF physics, right? You've got range, bandwidth, and frequency, and you can trade one for the other. So when I was going through the video, I said there's 12-bit mode and 12-channel mode and 8-channel mode. And if you're not going to use 12 channels, I recommend setting it to 8 because you'll probably get a higher packet rate. Well, my supposition, that's what I'll call that, my supposition was correct. According to this website that I found, and the guy did packet sniffs. So if you guys want to check it out, go look at his link. I'll put that in the description later too, so you don't have to type it out. But he went and did the research and dug into the packet format, and he said when you use 8-channel mode, the TX sends sticks 0 through 7 on every packet. If you use the 12-channel mode instead, the TX sends sticks 0 through 3 on every packet and alternate sticks 4 through 7 and 8 through 11, dividing their update rate to the half. The alternating packet is marked in the first byte of the uplink data, bit 5 set. So the reason I'm throwing this out there, there's two things to take away from this conversation. One is that it appears Crossfire over the air is 10 bits. Which sounds terrible because I couldn't find information on FreeSky D16. That's the one I'm comparing it to, right? Because that's what my R161s are. That's what my S6Rs are. So when I use like a standard S6R receiver with D16, that's the competition. And I couldn't find the information on that one yet. Although what I did find the D8 was 10-bit. And then I went and said, okay, well, that's a good understanding of Crossfire. So that's interesting information. But there's a whole picture you have to put together here, okay? So the Crossfire, that's just one element of Crossfire. And I said, well, what about ELRS? Because this one comes up, and I think ELRS is compared to Crossfire quite a bit. And this is directly off the Express ELRS FAQ. So directly off their website. That's where I got this. And I paraphrased a little bit. I did, this is mostly a copy and paste, but I did a little tiny, I wouldn't say paraphrasing, I trimmed it. That's what I did. So this is directly off their website. And what they say is the ELRS is 12 channels with a suspicious asterisk. There's not enough bandwidth to support all full resolution channels. It's possible that future versions will further expand this by sending an extra channel data in a slow upload, but in bold, it's not a priority for development. Therefore, ELRS provides, first off, four full channel resolution channels. So 10 bits, that's comparable to Crossfire. So if we're talking about AETR, I would say that they're comparable. So you get 4 channels of full resolution 10-bit. Where this breaks, and in the case of the plane that I'm flying, I use 2 channels for ailerons. Now, the reason that I do that is because when you're flying 3D planes or any other plane for that matter, if I can add separate aileron channels, I do. And the reason I do that is because it gives me options. I can do things like flapper-ons, spoiler-ons. I can do elevator mixes for tumbling. There's things that you can do to change the way the plane flies. So when I can use 2 separate aileron channels, I do. And with ELRS, that breaks. Another issue is that some of these planes have 2 elevator channels as well. And if you like I think the Edge 540 has 2 elevator servos. I'm pretty sure it does. So if you have 2 elevator servos, that would break for this as well. You'd have a real problem unless you could arrange mechanically for your elevators to be opposing, right? And that might be possible, might not. So I'm just throwing it out there that ELRS may not be a good option for fixed wing, especially if you start getting slightly more complex. Not much, slightly. So in addition to the 4 full channel 10-bit, in addition to the 4 full resolution 10-bit channels, on ELRS, you either get one of the next three options. You get either the standard mode, which is 4 2-position channels sent every frame. In 1.0, they had it at 8. They dropped it in 2.0. Or you can have hybrid switches, which is 1 2-position switch, aux1, channel 5 must be used for arming, a 6x2-position switch, 3-position switch, 6-position switch, aux 2 through 7, and 1 16-position aux 8. Or you can have wide hybrid mode, which is 1 2-position, aux 1, channel 5 must be used for arming, 7 64 or 128 position channel aux 2 through 8, available via the Lewis Scripsons 2.0. So this is what I'm trying to get to, right? This is why when I said I prefer Crossfire, it was for a reason. It wasn't to get a dig on ELRS. That's not what I'm about. It was because I believe that 8 full channels, or in the case of Crossfire up to 12, I don't think I'll use 12. I'll set it to 8 because I'll get that stick update for every packet, which will probably make the plane feel smoother, right? Setting it to 8. But that seems to be a more apropos model for fixed wing if you're using Crossfire to PWM than using ELRS. So if you're using ELRS and you're trying to set it up on fixed wing, you could do a basic setup and probably get along just fine, not really have a problem. And in that case, you can get away with the $10 ELRS receiver, have great line of sight range, and full resolution 10 bits, right? Everything's hunky-dory there. But with Crossfire, if the minute you add one more channel, Crossfire becomes kind of obvious. And that's part of the reason that I'm kind of gravitating to Crossfire right now. It's to be that single source receiver. So if I can just do Crossfire and get rid of everything else and only use Crossfire either in PWM, S-Bus, or direct Crossfire for, say, a quad, that to me makes me happy because it's one less thing I have to fiddle around with when I'm going flying in terms of transmitters. See where I'm going with this? Now, there is one more. Oh, Robert says 11 bits on D16. Interesting. Okay, so now we're going to close loop on this. Let's go. So here's the next part. You gotta talk about the whole story. So this is where getting into all these spec wars and discussions can be problematic, right? Because you go out and say, well, I've got 12-bit gimbals, 11-bit protocol, 10-bit servos. So what's the bottleneck? Well, it's the servo. Simple as that. Doesn't matter if your resolution is higher, if your servo can't respond to it. So I'm going to preface anything before I go any further. I'm going to preface this by saying I am not finished with my research on servos. So I have not concluded, and I have not come to a conclusion yet on servos. All right. I have more work to do. So what I did find in my initial reading was that there's a line of thinking that says servos are not accurate enough for greater than 10-bit. Now you're going to go, what the hell? Then why are we always talking about 11 or 12-bit? That's, if you're paying attention, that's got to be your question. And it's a real simple answer. And the simple answer is that when you're not using a servo, but you're using something like Betaflight, where your computer, the onboard flight computer, is controlling output to the motors or the ESC, then higher resolution can benefit you, right? You can get a little bit more precision out of the deal. But if you're going to a servo that's got you got mechanical issues on servos. You got a gear train, you've got maybe a Z-bend or a clevis or a ball link that might have a little bit of slop in it, or some movement, or one of those tubes inside your plane that bends a little bit when you flux. So all of those things can contribute to degrading the precision you get out of a servo, because a servo is mechanical in nature. That's a little bit different than, say, a quadcopter, or I'd even argue a fly barless helicopter. So you do have servos in a fly barless, man, but I would say the mechanics on a helicopter head are real tight. There's no slop in those heads at all. So I can see how getting into an 11-bit protocol, an 11-bit gimbal on a computerized platform like iNav or Betaflight or a fly barless, you might benefit from the full 11-bit resolution. now we're going to get into the last kind of argument, and that's 2048 steps, which is 11-bit, over 120 degrees. That's the servo sweep. We generally acknowledge 60 degrees either side. That comes out to about 0.06 degrees per step. And this goes back to the very pragmatic question, are you good enough to realize when your control surface is moved 0.06 degrees? I'm not. Now, there's another kink in this little formula, and that's what happens when you extend your servo arms. So in the space of 3D planes, we do extend the servo arms. I'm using 1.25-inch extensions. So that changes things too. That changes the mechanical arrangement, and that's why I said I'm not finished doing my research. So when you extend the mechanical limit, you're reducing your resolution, right? You're taking it away. So therefore, bottom line for me at this point is that, number one, I don't think that I have a problem running Crossfire on my 3D planes because I've got 10 bits of resolution. There's a school of thought that says 10 bits for servo-driven craft is fine. And if you think that you need more than that, say you went to 11 bits, you'd have to be good enough to realize when you were off by 0.06 degrees per step. So certainly over the span of a full 1024 in each direction, yeah, that would add up a little bit, right? It feels like it would add up a little bit. But for, any given step, 0.06 degrees, I'm not sure that I would pick that up. I'm just not sure I'd pick it up. So more work to do on the servo things and the servo question. And I'll tell you guys, I'm going to spend a little more time digging into this because I want to know more about it. But I just thought I'd give you guys a little bit of that background before we go into the next topic, which is we're going to talk a little bit about why I'm looking at this, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. I've got a couple things to kind of walk through a little bit here. So before I do, though, I'm going to go back and check questions and comments. And it looks like there wasn't a whole lot. Miller RC says, yes, why harnessing your ailerons is disastrous on a 3D bird. Yep. Yeah, you got to avoid that. And that right away kind of limits Express LRS as an option. Props off. How you doing, my friend? Glad you could make it. Robert says 11 bits on D16. Thanks for digging that out, Robert. I was looking for it. I couldn't find a clear answer. I saw 10 on D8. So 11 on D16. Interesting. Patrick says, are you going Crossfire on your helis? I got to tell you, Patrick, right now, probably not at the moment. I want to find out more about this resolution and the servo thing. I want to find out how real that is. There's also some debate about analog versus digital servos as well, although on the helicopters, all my helis have digital servos. So I just need to do more reading. I'm certainly not going to tear them apart at this point and make the switch. However, going forward, if I do add another helicopter to the fleet, I'd really like to use Crossfire as long as Brain Icon supports the telemetry that we get and, the single wire connection for signal and telemetry. Because right now, honestly, I've got a big stack of these. They work fantastic in my helicopters. And I do get the telemetry, and I got the configuration wired to ground. So right now, I don't have a big reason to change, and I also have a standalone dedicated transmitter for the helicopter. So I know if I'm going to fly a helicopter, I've got to bring that transmitter. That's kind of the thing I'd like to get away from, right? Where I have to carry additional transmitters if I could. But right now, that's what I'm doing. So anyway, yeah, that one, I'm going to say, hold the thought on that one. We're not there yet. Robert says, great VTX replacement video at PropSoft. Oh, good. Video from PropSoft. Thanks, Rob. Hopefully helps someone save money. Ridiculous how many I've had fail. Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's talk about the so what on all of this. So, oh, you know what? I need the radio. I set the radio aside. I wanted to give you guys a look. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this, I promise. So the so what in all this is this radio. I want to show you guys a quick little configuration. And on this Edge 540, I've got an FLVSS sensor. And is that bright enough? I don't know if that's bright enough there. That looks better. And I did a video on this. We've talked about it a couple of times, and it's the voltage sag video. So what I want to show you real quick, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there's a configuration right there that does, it looks at battery telemetry and it says when my battery sags below 22, it's a 6 cell. When it sags below 22.5 volts for 6 seconds, I want you to go on. And then L3 goes on only if SH is away. So if I'm armed and my battery sags more than 6 seconds at that voltage, I get an alert. Okay, that's all this does. And then if the battery is greater than 22.5 volts, or if SH is down, meaning if it's locked, my throttle's locked, I don't really care if my throttle is locked about a voltage alert because I don't want it chirping at me on the desk. So that's my voltage sag option. I got it in the frame there. That's my voltage sag option on the radio. And my intention, if I switch over to this Crossfire thing, is to use that configuration with this little Maytech board, because this Maytech board gives us VBAT, it gives us voltage and current, and it gives current up to 90 degrees continuous, 90 amps continuous, and up to 220 on burst. So when you think about that, this is a $10 adapter board. We simply connect an easy either Express ELRS, I've got both, or Crossfire, and we've got telemetry. We've got VBAT, we've got current, and if you want GPS, you can get that as well. One of the guys asked about for gliders, and I said, well, you got GPS, altitude, and speed, and apparently that's not good enough for glider guys. They got to have a barometer. There's no barometer on any of this, so that's not the format for you if what you need is a barometer. So there's no option for that, but it does do GPS if you can use GPS, and on the GPS, you can get GPS speed, altitude, and I believe your coordinates. So there's a lot of data that comes off this little board, and I'm telling you guys, man, that if you want to go get just a voltage sensor, you can get a basic voltage sensor for about $4. You get a more advanced per cell voltage sensor for about 15, and a current sensor for about 25. So this is a pretty good option. And now let me kind of go back to why I wanted to go down this path with you guys in the first place. And it's because now today I have to use something like an R161. This is S-Bus if I want to use a stabilizer. And this is one of those Detram iStone stabilizers. It's a good little stabilizer. It works great. I've used it in plenty of planes. It works just fine. It's got the standard wind rejection and auto level modes. It works just fine. It's just a nice little gyro. It's when Detram, when BitGo Hobby used to run a lot of stuff through the channel. I did some reviews on these stabilizers, and they work fine. But this is S-Bus, and I actually just for kicks, I got out an R161 the other day and bound it up and ran it, and it works. So this is a very nice working configuration. That's why the whole Crossfire thing is important to me, because this guy outputs S-Bus, right? You go in your configuration when you turn this on and bind it in your transmitter setup, you can convert it to S-Bus. So all you need are signal wires that go from, just like this one, 3 wires that go into your receiver, ground, positive, and signal, and you can run S-Bus for Crossfire. Okay, so now that native Crossfire is good for your quads, right? Because it talks to iNav and it talks to Betaflight. So you've got that, and that's your quads. It can do, or your FPV airplanes in iNav, right? Can do both of those. And now you've got S-Bus out, so it can do, if you have a standalone stabilizer, and there are other stabilizers too. You've got, this is like a Turnigy. This is an OEM Turnigy. I think this is like an N2 or something like that, but Hobby King rebranded this an Aerostar. But I've had these forever, and they work fine. They're just decent little gyros. So any gyro that supports S-Bus input, the V2 iStone, the Aerostar, the Hobby Eagle, any of those, you can run S-Bus into these. And then, so that's 2 things. You've got Crossfire, you've got S-Bus, and with this little card, now we've got PWM, which means I can connect a servo directly to this board, pair it to my Crossfire receiver, and I've got full control. 10 bits, 8 channels, or 12 channels with partial packet rates. So there you go. That's why I wanted to do this visually, to give you guys an idea of directionally why I think this is so important. And I also know that Crossfire sells a PWM out version. They've got a card, and they actually have a PWM receiver, but I think it's only 6 channels. So I've looked at that as well, and I might try one of those out as well. That way you wouldn't have to solder anything. If you just needed a little 6-channel receiver, that would work too. And you can buy that complete. So no solder, no work at all. But keep in mind, you're not going to get the telemetry. And that's one of the things I really like about this setup, is I'm going to get voltage and current up to a point. It's not good for 12S. So this isn't good for something like that Edge 540. And the Edge 540 also has 120 amp ESC. So the sustained current can probably be a little high for this thing. So it's not good for that yet, but maybe, you know, maybe they'll come out with something like that. But for a 6S setup, like the 60-inch Game Bird, the 60-inch Extra 300 V2, you got voltage, current, GPS if you want it, and 10 channels on Crossfire at 10-bit resolution, which is probably okay for even a digital servo. Okay. All right. So directionally, I wanted to give you guys a little clarity on that because I kind of glossed over it a little bit in the video. I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but to me, that's a pretty meaningful thing. It gives us an opportunity to simplify our hardware environment, right? Our hardware ecosystem. And that's kind of what's interesting to me about what's going on with these little boards. So like I said, go to Race Day Quads. They're out of the 10 channel, but they have the 6 channel, and Pyro Drone. They still had, last time I looked, they had some 10 channels. Okay. So if you're interested in grabbing those and trying them out, go for it. And the last thing I'll say about Crossfire is that I trust Crossfire 100%. The Crossfire protocol, I've flown all the way to the tree line, and the Crossfire protocol didn't even bat an eyelid. In fact, I think it was cruising at something like 25 watts to the tree line, and it goes to 1,000. It's ridiculous. So plenty of signal strength, let's put it that way, on Crossfire. So like worrying about signal dropouts or fades at the field on Crossfire, it's not really a thing. All right, let's see. I'm going to go back and take a look at comments real quick. Ooh, can we ask any questions? Yeah, you can ask questions. I don't necessarily answer them, but you can ask them. I try. You know, if it's apropos for the format, I try and answer. Hey, Canada Day to my fellow Canucks. Oh, I thought Robert was just kidding. Oh, geez, Robert, sorry. I thought you were busting my chops. Yes, I dare you to stump John. Oh, that's not funny. Has anyone ever used software-defined radio SDR for video transmission for drones? I have not. I know what it is. I'm a ham radio operator and I've used SDR for ham, but I have not done it for video for drones. Is it a good price for what you get out of it? It is a good price. Yeah, the $10, yeah, it is. $10 for what you get. And, you know, people say, but it's a $39 receiver or $29 Crossfire receiver, but you know something? See, that one I can live with, and the reason why is because it's just freaking good. I get a lot of telemetry, I get a lot of radio telemetry data, and I trust it. So, you know, I'm willing to pay that. Sure, I'd love to see that price come down. If it were $20, man, that would be a gold mine for them. But $29, yeah, that's a little spendy. I get it. But, you know, $29 plus the $10 card, but you're not going to put this in every single thing you own, right? You're just going to put this in stuff where you want data, or you kind of need data. And that's where I'm looking at it. All right, like I know how OpenHD Ruby for FPV uses Wi-Fi cards, but I'm wondering if anyone has used, nope, I haven't. HackRF, nope, have not. Robert says, and at 8 volts. Okay, hasn't Maytech partnered up an ELRS RX recently? I don't know if I don't really follow, Obi. Yeah, Robert's buddy isn't here today, is he? I don't really follow ELRS that closely in the hardware market. I'm not sure if they've done an ELRS RX or not. They might have. Oh, Robert says, yeah, let's get Precious out. Give me a second. There you go, Robert. 6-position switch warning is on. We'll skip over that. There we go. That's a 6-position momentary video that we did with Precious, huh? Robert, yeah, sorry, Robert, man, I didn't mean to let you down. Look, we got the American flag. Murica, said Freddie earlier. Freddie said Murica. Got the American flag in the background there. There it is. NM Desert Racer says, I'm flying at 399.99 feet. I usually get 3 to 4 miles on cross. Yeah, see what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. You can go all the way to that tree line, and it does, man. It's the power level stays low. It's got this dynamic power setting, and it's humorous to watch it. You can watch it go all the way to the trees, and when it gets to the trees, it's still at 25 milliwatts. It's amazing. Hobie says it's Canada Day and we need to celebrate with Precious. Oh, that's right. You know, Precious kind of got those Canadian colors a little bit. It's not white, but it's kind of silver and red, so it's close. Let's see. There's a Maytech ELRS RX. They're a bit bigger than the Radio. Yeah, I think, you know, in their wiring diagrams, a lot of times they show a receiver, and I'm not sure it's there. It's got to be theirs, and it definitely looks bigger than the Crossfire. Robert says, "Oh, look, it's Dyslexic Daisy." Precious dyslexic. I'm the one that's dyslexic, Robert, not the radio. Chris says, isn't this the same color scheme as the new Game Bird? It is the new. In fact, how about that? Look at that. Oh, we'll just hide the chat. So we'll let Robert enjoy that and just take it all in for just a minute. You guys, tell you right there, man. Look at that. It's got the same exact colors as the Game Bird. The only thing missing on the radio itself is white. And I actually have white on the index marks right there. So it's got them all. It's got white, red, black, and silver. Same thing as the Game Bird, right? They go together. I really need to fly that plane with this radio. I really need to do it. Let's see. All right, that's it for the comments. All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, it's about that time. It's about 20 after, and it's been a good session. I hope you guys like the content that I went through tonight. Hopefully you found it informative. And I know that I still have some more work to do on the servos. I got to go do a little bit more research and find out about stepping and precision and accuracy with the 11-bit resolution on servos, including digital servos. So I have some homework to do, and I'll be doing that. And that'll be, you know, hopefully we'll get to that subject again soon. But directionally, I am looking at Crossfire and the Maytech CRSF to PWM conversion board for the 3D planes. And I did say that we were going to talk a little bit about PA and extreme flight. So I do want to do that quick before we end the session tonight. So I do also want to remind you guys that next week, short week, right? We got 4th of July, so Family Day, and I don't know what the weather's going to do this weekend, so hopefully I'll get something in, but we'll see. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about extreme flight and PA. You know, I was talking to Robert, I think, in Discord, and I think that I may be doing a video where I do a head-to-head matchup with PA and EF. And I'm not talking about in flight, I'm talking about on the ground. And the reason I say that is because I think personally right now, there's one other vendor out there. Well, there's actually two. There's AJ and there's Seabird. The problem with Seabird is they never have anything in stock. They're like constantly out of stock of everything. I'm not talking about me being picky. I'm talking they're out. So AJ would be the other one, and I haven't flown an AJ plane yet, so I'm kind of. Could you say that again? I'm kind of half tempted. I'm having trouble hearing. Yeah, my watch talking to me. I'm half tempted to get an AJ plane just so I can do a full comparison. But if I look at, I will tell you this: there's no doubt in my mind that EF and PA are in the top three. No question. No question about it in my mind. They're superb building planes. Their quality is always really good. Their fit and finish really good. And the way they fly is amazing. There are some real differences between the two, though. One of them is that PA, you've heard me say it, is super light, and EF is heavier, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're living with real world flight conditions. I would also say that EF probably has some advantages when it comes to doing a build. So if you guys are interested in having a conversation about extreme flight versus PA, I'm really thinking hard about doing a video on that one. And if you follow the channel, you know I kind of steer clear of getting into the top threes, you know, the top fives. And the reason for that is because a lot of that stuff can be very subjective, and you can distance people if you're not careful. And I don't like the idea of bashing, right? I try and maintain a positive, uplifting kind of approach on the channel where I can. You know, I'll call it out when I'll call a spade, but that's why I've steered away from it. But if you guys are interested in that, I would, you know, I'm really seriously considering doing a video on EF versus PA, a head-to-head. I'm so keen on PA's non-adjusted. Yeah, I'm not so keen. That's one of the big problems. And they you know, they use the carbon fiber rods, which are brilliant, and their geometry is really good. If you set a PA plane up the right way and you look at the geometry, it's like textbook. It's perfect, you know, 90 degrees, full throws, asymmetrical, very good. And extreme flight, they've had some issues with that lately that we've covered on this channel with the Edge 540. You know, if you look at the geometry on that one, on the 78-inch, it's kind of goofy. So Terminal Insanity says, are the Sonic model Air Wings any good or just junk? I do not care for the Air Wing Pro. I know the Air Wing Classic has a big following, and I think the 800 is pretty good, but I'm not a big fan of the Air Wing Pro. I'm not. I don't care for that one. Let's see. Yes, sir. Finishing a field maintenance terminal sounded like mine. Best bang for the buck. Air Wings are good unless you get a bad launch. All right. See what I mean? You get a lot of opinions, right? A lot of opinions. I'm not a fan of the Air Wing Pro. I had all kinds of weird little issues with mine. I just ended up I just broke it apart. So, all right, guys. Well, if you're interested in having that video on EF versus PA, leave a comment afterwards and let me know. Put a comment in the video after the video post. Let me know what you think. And if there's enough interest in it, I'll do the video. All right, fellas. Hey, listen, that's all I've got for tonight. I appreciate you hanging out with me on a Friday night, and I hope you have a chance to get out and fly something this weekend. For those of you who celebrate Independence Day in the U.S., happy Independence Day. That's all I've got for tonight. Take it easy.